Our next story is about one of Canada's worst plane crashes. 40 years ago today, 109 people died when Air Canada Flight 621 smashed into farmland near what is now Pearson International Airport. There's not much left of the crash site today. There's no memorial to mark the tragedy. But that could soon change thanks to the efforts of one Toronto area woman who lost 3 family members that day. Video journalist Peter Wall has her story.
For 40 years, Lynda Fishman has dreaded this moment and avoided this place. With every step forward, she walks towards the past.
I would say that if you talk about this place, you're talking about where my family's resting. It's never been out of my thoughts.
This field is where her mother and sister were killed.
Did you ever think you'd come here?
No.
July 5th, 1970. The DC-8, carrying Lynda Fishman's mother and 2 sisters, is flying from Montreal to Los Angeles with a stop in Toronto. On landing in Toronto, pilot error causes the plane to hit the runway. Hard. Too hard. The captain tries to recover and guide the jet for another landing. But 2 of the plane's engines fall off, and a wing breaks apart. All 109 people on board are killed when the plane slams into a farmer's field. The plane crashes with such force, bodies are almost impossible to identify.
What kind of a noise did it make when it went in?
It was just like an atomic bomb.
Lynda's sisters are 8 and 11 at the time. Lynda, 13. Air Canada builds a memorial 30 kilometers from the site at a cemetery in Toronto and settles with the families out of court. But no memorial is ever built at the crash scene, and the site is never fully cleaned up. Lynda has been pushing for a memorial at the crash site.
40 years afterwards, it's just too long to wait to put up a proper memorial.
She's also been writing a book about how the shadow of the tragedy has eclipsed much of her life. To move forward, she's looking back. The crash site has been bought by a developer, and before they touch a thing, Lynda is getting involved to make sure the memory of her mother and sisters is treated with respect.
There were some people in the neighborhood who were protesting any homes being built on this particular impact zone. So the developer and the city, from what I understand, had all agreed that they would do something.
But what that something is unclear.
Hi.
Pleased to meet you.
Dermot Horgan's planning the development for the landowners.
So the landowner group that Mark and I work for, that we're engaged by, basically are looking at this area right here. So within that is where the air crash occurred.
The plan is for a 500-house development with a memorial garden and cemetery on the crash site. The only trouble is, there are still pieces of plane on the site and pieces of bone from victims of the crash.
We planners, engineers said, well, let's get some science involved here.
So they've hired an archaeologist to go over the site, and he's recommended pushing all the soil from the 3-acre area, which might contain bones, into a smaller 1-acre space.
Take all the soil within the impacted area and in essence bury it as you would do in a burial site, which is registered as a cemetery.
So some people are going to be living on the scatter zone?
Yes, there will.
It's then time for the plans for the memorial. When Lynda hears they plan to put purple lilacs in the garden, it strikes a chord.
Sorry. My mother's favorite flowers were purple lilacs. Can't believe you have those on there.
But the memorial's only set to be built by 2012, and Lynda wants something done for this year's 40th anniversary.
What I would like to see happen, and I hope that this can happen, is that there's a dedication to the proposed memorial.
We would certainly.
The developers agree and offer to pay for an anniversary ceremony. It's set for July 4th.
And is Air Canada interested at all in participating in this? Because my understanding is they've always said, no, we're not, and stay away from us. It's still the case?
That's the feedback we have got as well.
It's so disgusting, actually.
I mean, they kind of say, well, that was, at that time, it was a Crown Corporation, whatever it might be, and, you know, we're a different company now, and you know the way it is, Lynda, you know, to them it's bad publicity.
This is the crash site. A farmer's field for the past 40 years. At first glance, it's hard to see how any lives could have been lost here. But Paul Carden says the ground is still littered with debris.
Oh, this here. This is, I'm pretty sure this is cockpit glass. The thickness of
He's an aviation enthusiast who spent a lot of time here searching.
You can still see that? Okay.
I ask him to show me around.
Okay.
And within 5 minutes of arriving, look what he finds.
Okay. Right here, looks like a piece of bone. Fair enough, it is. Yes, it is. That's definitely not of recent origin. A little bit of mold. Significant piece.
Now, how do you know that's not an animal bone?
Animal bones are intact when you find them. This is obviously, the airplane is in pieces. These bones are in pieces.
But while bone finds are relatively rare, plane debris is not.
Yeah, so this would be a stir stick from the flight. Yeah, actually the coroner at the time said, he said they'll be finding pieces of this airplane in this field for the next 50 years. That was his actual quote.
But amid the debris, some things were amazingly intact. Like the child's doll in this picture, taken shortly after the accident. The doll belonged to Lynda's sister. As another step in her journey to visit the crash site, Lynda starts by revisiting that photo.
Hi, Boris.
She tracks down the photographer who took it.
Okay, thank you very much.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Boris Spremo was the first member of the media at the crash site.
I was on a chase plane.
This was the original?
No, I just made this. I made a copy.
Okay.
He offers to show her some of the photos he took.
I'm not sure if I could look at them, Boris.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
Have a peek. I don't know. If you don't like it, stop it.
no, right here.
Sorry about this. When you come half an hour after the crash and you're walking through the empty field, we follow the bodies, you know. I know, again, it's the worst thing. Like, I've been through many things in my 40 years, 5 wars and all this. And you come home in the evening and you tell your kids about it.
Well.
Sunday, July 4th, the day of the ceremony. The week before, Lynda and the other victims' families had heard that Air Canada was planning on attending the ceremony.
We were puzzled about why they had a sudden interest in attending, and so the response we sent was, if you'd like to attend, we would like to have a meeting with you first. 2 days ago, I heard that they would be interested in meeting with me. One of the executives would be interested in meeting with me half an hour before everybody arrives at this memorial, which is completely insensitive and insulting. So we said no. If you can't find the time to meet with us prior to the day of the memorial, then please don't come to our memorial. Baby.
The families meet at a country club close to the site of the crash.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
See you.
Our father was on a plane.
The families travel to the site together.
This should have happened such a long time ago. It is so long overdue. I can't even believe the people who I've met already this morning and had the opportunity to talk with, and our experience has been so similar that it's actually frightening.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, this anniversary ceremony is your ceremony.
The ceremony is led by Dermot,
where you can remember and honor your friends and your relatives.
Lynda gets up to thank him.
It means so much to me and my family, and I'm sure to everyone, that you are doing this for us and not just paving over it or building homes over it.
After the ceremony, they walked the 500 meters to where the crash took place.
Did you ever think you'd come here?
No. I don't think I'll ever have closure. I don't think that you ever close the door on anything like this, ever. It's actually more like an opening for me. It feels to me more like now doors have been opened and contact has been made with family members who also have suffered for these 40 years. So I think it's quite the opposite.
The work on the site is scheduled to begin in the fall.
It was Peter Wall reporting tonight. CBC did contact Air Canada regarding the new memorial for the victims of Flight 621. The company declined to comment.